Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cooking with Big Mark. Today, the topic, puff pastry.
Good day, folks. This puff piece today on puff pastry. We alluded to in a previous session, but today I'm talking about the frozen puff pastry and the best use at this time of year with all the impending picnics and holidays coming up. But just cut it in squares and making open-faced tarts, and that's what we're going to talk about today, how to do that. First of all, in buying puff pastry, the big thing you want to do is look for on the package to see if it's made with butter. A lot of people use other kinds of vegetable fats, but they want the butter. That's obviously going to be the tastiest. And how you deal with it, if you're going to use it on a Tuesday, you might want to take it out of the refrigerator on a Sunday afternoon or Monday morning and let it thaw out slowly and bring it up to temperature. Then you can take it out, because if it's partially frozen and you try and work with it, it's brittle, it just falls apart. And the preparation for all the different ways, both we're going to discuss today, the savory and the sweet, the preparation is the same for both. And what it comes down to is opening up the puff pastry, usually a square about 8 by 8 or 9 by 9, something in that range, and just cutting it into 4 squares, as close as you can get. And then what you want to do is we want to build up an edge on it so that whatever we're putting stays contained. And you do that by, one way to do it is to take a paring knife and just score about a ½ inch in all around, following the shape of the square. So like a picture frame. And you take that, and you can now just take it and bake it like that, dry bake, after applying a little bit of an egg wash, which just is egg with a little bit of water or cream, and just brush it on the part on the frame part, not the center, just the frame part. So that, another way to do it, of course, is to take other pieces of puff paste and cut it in little strips and put it around the edge. That's another way, to get a double level, but the scoring thing works much easier. All right, so now we have our scored pieces. Now we're going to talk about savory, first of all. There's 2 ways you can do that. You can bake them off in the oven, and it takes about 20 minutes. Do it on a sheet pan. If it sticks, you can use parchment paper, or for the savory, you can put a few grated cheese underneath. It'll help to keep it. If it's a sweet, you can use some turbinado sugar or something below, which also adds the flavor. So we baked it off, and then when it comes out, let it sit down and cool. Then take the center and just push it down, and it'll collapse in the middle. So now you have like a picture frame of puff pastry, and you can do with whatever you want as far as the hot things go. And anything that you're doing with it, you want to make sure that they're all cooked ahead of time, because the puff pastry does not take that long to heat. And if you want to do things like vegetables or root vegetables or spinach, you want spinach sauteed. It can be mushrooms, caramelized onions. You want to have all these different things you're going to use ready to go. And what you do is just take those, and on this baked thing, now that's all pre-baked, you can either, just put any kind of a cream base. It can be a mascarpone with herbs in it. It can be Boursin cheese. Anything that is spreadable can go in the base, and then your vegetables on top, just like you would a bruschetta, and then put pickled onions or anything else on top, and just build up like an open-faced tart. And that's all it's done. If you want to cook, though, you want a hot one, what you do is you leave the same thing, but now you take the same vegetables or other things and put them in the center and cover them with cheese or something else, and then just bake it in the oven. A lot of mothers are finding out that sometimes kids have a hard time getting certain kind of vegetables into them. They're putting them in this little puff pastry shell with cheese and everything else the kids like, mayo or something else, that they're able to get these vegetables into them in a sort of a surreptitious way. So the hot things, again, anything else that you want to put in on the base on it. It's again just putting all things together. I mentioned all the ingredients. We use things like sweet potatoes or squash. You want to pre-cook it, and cut it like in a small dice. And things you can use to put on in it can be hummus. It can be again any spreadable thing. But then you just bake them. And again, for 20 minutes, and it's a beautiful hot tart. Everything comes out of the oven, and you want to sit. And almost all puff paste things, the best time to eat them is just out of the oven. They don't last very long. You can reheat them, but you can also pre-prep, as we talked about, and freeze them, and then come back out, let them thaw again, and then bake them up that way. So those are all the different savory ones that you can put together. And there are some combinations of things that that I talked about that I thought were interesting. There's one that was leeks and cheese and bacon would make a great combination. Spinach, potato, feta cheese, things that would go in a Greek spanakopita. Brie, apple, and onion. There's really honestly, it's a myriads of kinds you can do. So anyway, that would be the hot one. And for the savory, for the sweet, again, you have the same shell. If you want to have them come out hot, you can take your apples, pears, berries, whatever it is, and you want to sort of macerate them in a little bit of sugar. And you might, on stone fruits, you might want to add a little cornstarch. And for the berries, which give up a lot of juice, you might need a little bit more. And you again just
of the cornstarch.
Of the cornstarch,
okay.
They're kind of like it's a thickener as it bakes. And a lot of people use it in pies, especially things like blueberry pies and those kind of things. But you again just put that in the center of the unbaked shell with the cut ridge edge that you had, scored edge, and sprinkle some sugar on the top of it and bang right in the oven. And you get little tartans, little combination of fresh fruits that are beautiful. But the other one in the cold, if you do the pre-baked shell that we did before, it's now cooked, you push that down. Now you can fill it with a flavored mascarpone again, but with sugar or vanilla or any kind of combination. You can make a pastry cream if you're so inclined. That's pretty easy to do nowadays. Almost anything, again, that is like puddings of all kinds could go in, basically. Then on top of that, arrange your fruit. And all fresh fruit laid out, lined, sliced, and very attractively done. And then all you got to do is that's done. You can take a little currant jelly or apple jelly, warm it, get a little pastry brush, and just brush over the top of it. You get that beautiful glaze that you see in pastry shops. Then you've got the simplest dessert in the world. And you can almost do a strawberry shortcake that way. Put the whipped cream in the middle of it, then strawberries all over the top, and it's be a different variation. But the presentation is so much more professional and so different than other people do. And it looks like an unbelievable amount of work, and it really isn't. So using the frozen puff paste in the squares is a great way to entertain for the upcoming summer, especially those who like to barbecue. You have people who like to cook meats and things. You can add in a bit by giving these vegetable tarts, which makes a nice accompaniment to all kinds of shish kebabs or steaks or whatever. So get away with the puff paste and impress your friends.
All right. What I was going to talk about today, somewhat briefly, is the sort of building blocks of cocktails. And it's the same as food. You're talking about acidity, sweetness, bitterness, saltiness, possibly even umami. One thing I find, this is a Meyer lemon syrup that I made this week. Very useful when I'm doing cocktail events in people's homes, is bringing my own syrups, because I don't have access to the bottles prior to the event. So you can't do a fat wash, you can't infuse with fruit or spices or herbs. So this is a good way to bring a jolt of flavor that's portable and doesn't require doing an infusion. I decided to do a little research on what folks are doing around the world cocktail-wise these days that kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. First one is from the Dead Rabbit in New York City. This is a very good example of balance in a cocktail. This is their con artist, which is El Gobernador Pisco, Verde Momento Mezcal, apricot, passion fruit, pineapple, lime, habanero, and Angostura bitters. And this is almost a perfect distillation of what I'm talking about, because You have your spirit, your pisco. The mezcal is going to add the smokiness, so that's a whole different note. You have your fruit notes. You have your acidity with the lime. You have more spicy or some spice with the habanero, and then the bitters, obviously the bitterness to finish. Here in Chicago at Billy's Sunday, my friend Matt's bar, they have the Lima or the Lima Lassie. Again, this is pisco based with cantaloupe, passion fruit, genepi, lime, dill, aquavit, and Greek yogurt. So this is definitely playing with texture. But again, you have your base spirit, you have your fruit, you have your acid, the dill aquavit, and it was the sort of thing I couldn't do for an event because it requires having the aquavit in hand. But you can see the aquavit almost has a dill note without infusion, but this would really take it over the top. And then this guy is from Employees Only in New York City. This is their Ready, Fire, Aim, made with Del Maguey Vita Mezcal. Mezcal is certainly having a moment. Fresh lime juice, house-made honey pineapple syrup with dashes of bitters. So exactly what I'm talking about. You've got all the taste enhancement elements in play.
What is mezcal?
Mezcal it's a variation on Tequila Dead.
Okay.
It's
I thought so.
made from the same plant, but it has a smokiness like Scotch does.
Okay.
And then this guy was from Waru do Caraçu, which is in Amsterdam. They're a perfect rainy day Talisker 10-year, that's your base, a mix of dry and red vermouth, a maple and cacao syrup. The cacao is going to be providing that bitter note in the syrup, and then of course black walnut bitters gives another dose of bitter and just of interest. I love black walnut bitters. And then the final guy, this is from a bar in France, in Paris, called the Moonshiner, and this is their walkie-talkie, and it's Tokai whiskey infused with cocoa nibs, Grappo Nardini, which is an Amaro, which has been infused with bananas. I'm translating from French, so. And then orange juice and passion fruit and some house-made bitters. So again, you see that that combination of acidity, that usually comes from citrus juice, or you can actually use like a citric acid for bottled cocktails because juice does not do great under those conditions. It goes, you can't really preserve it. Then of course, sweetness in the form of honey or maple syrup or fruit or infused syrups, what we were talking about. One interesting thing, if you do a citrus simple syrup, your citrus juice takes the place of the water. If you did both water and the citrus juice, would be very thin, but you just do your freshly squeezed juice and your sugar. Then of course the bitter element, certainly much like in food, in a margarita, the salted rim is elevating the flavor. So little look at least some cocktailing happening here and abroad. This has been Cooking with Big Mark. It was a pleasure to see you all, and remember to like our Facebook page. All right, bye, Dad. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay.